What is drawing, really? When you put your pencil or your pen down on the page and start creating something, what are you doing? For most of us, we have an idea in our head, so we're extricating something from our mind. We're bringing something into reality. I took maybe 5 seconds at the beginning of this, started with pen, perhaps arrogantly, and then went, you know what? No, I don't have anything to prove here. I want this to turn out decently. So I'm going to get out my pencil and start working some lines on here and create something. I believe I had an idea that I was going to go with a dragon, and obviously it's going to be a robot as I'm continuing in that series, but I didn't really know a whole lot beyond that. And in this drawing, I kind of just start bringing things to life. I'm pulling something out of my mind, but only an idea. And that's the odd thing about drawing in general, is sometimes you are pulling an image out of your head and putting it onto the paper. And sometimes you're allowing your brain, your subconscious, to simply do things, and whatever happens, happens. I find that I am not able to do that latter kind of drawing every single time. I can always try to pull something out of my brain. I can always conjure something that I might want to pull out of my brain. But I am not always capable of tapping into whatever form of drawing that is just on autopilot. I kind of wish that I could, but I don't know. The results seem like they'd be a little bit unpredictable. So what is drawing then? It is the depicting of a thing, generally with intent, generally something from our mind, but not always. And I know if you've drawn anywhere near as much as I have, you've surely run into this same thing that happens where your idea exists in some form in your mind, and as you go to put it down onto your iPad or your canvas or your sketchbook, things change. When you're young as an artist, this happens because your skills can't quite yet do what you want them to. But even in the later years, it happens because the pencil is just a pencil. The pen is just a pen. Not everything listens or obeys the way that it ought to. Sometimes your wrist moves a little bit differently. Someone surprises you by coming up behind you and you make a mark you didn't expect to. Any way this happens, things don't go according to plan, at least not exactly according to plan. And that's part of what makes a drawing, what separates it from a photograph or just an idea, is the actual physical reality of putting it down into some tangible thing. Even if you're drawing digitally, there's still the strokes of your digital brush, your hand moving against that screen or that tablet. Things never seem to come out exactly how you anticipate. And I think inside of that, the merger of the human design and desire and the actual physical reality of bringing something into existence, somewhere in that harmony and discord lies drawing. And so today, I'm doing the only logical thing I can do, and I'm drawing a robot dragon. And is it turning out as I expected? No. Of course not. Why would it? Perhaps it's of its own accord moving and doing and acting. Perhaps my subconscious wants to do things that my waking mind does not. But more than likely, I just don't have the skill yet to do exactly what I want. As I start to put some of the plating on here, I'm not really thinking about the three-dimensionality or how this thing's moving, and I will pay for that later. But it also doesn't matter that much. This is just a drawing of a robot dragon. You know, no one is going to live or die based on how well put together this is. There's grace in that, I suppose. Grace in the fact that as artists, we have the ability to save lives with the beauty that we bring into existence, but we seldom have the ability to end them, to put things into dire straits, into a terrible place. See, if you are an architect or an engineer, you are perhaps making things that do have the potential to cause harm to human beings. Oh, sure, art can cause harm, but generally, a drawing that you make with errant details, things that are not correct, the shading not being the way that you wanted, is not going to hurt someone in the same way that not looking at how load-bearing that wall is might be for an engineer or an architect. No, our drawings are low risk for the populace. They are sometimes high risk for us, or so it seems. It is dangerous to our psyche sometimes to bring things into existence, because now those things can be weighed and measured by the people around us. But who freaking cares? Because you're an artist and you're making things. And maybe this one didn't turn out the way you wanted. In fact, it probably almost certainly didn't turn out the way you wanted, because most of our drawings don't. Most of our paintings don't quite listen to us. In my classroom years ago, I had this rather strange rule that came up. And it was a response to students repeatedly telling me how much they hated a drawing or a painting that they made. And I don't remember the exact context, and I might have mentioned this before, but the rule went something like this: don't hate your artistic creations. You are their parent. You brought them into existence, and the least that you can do is show them some love. And I think there is some truth to that, in the same way that I think that a piece of art contains a piece of you. Even if you are drawing a still life, something that you didn't decide necessarily, your teacher put it in the front of the classroom, hating on that art is hating on something that you produced. Now, maybe you don't want to take a weird metaphysical angle and assume that that tangible drawing that now exists is part of you, but I kind of am okay with it. I kind of think that there's something interesting, at the very least, in contemplating that aspect. But even if that's not true, even if it is simply something that you created, hating on it is still hating on something that you did, and it's not wise. In that same train of thought, though, is an assumption, or at least the potential for an assumption, that a piece of artwork can have a life of its own. Now, I don't believe that our artworks necessarily have an ability to act on their own accord. I don't believe that they are sentient or that fate is controlling them in some way. What I do believe, however, is we as humans are terrible at understanding our subconscious and our unconscious mind, and that sometimes those two certainly come out in our artworks. And so sometimes the things that happen in our work are more like a waking dream. Our brain, if allowed, can start processing some of the things that are bothering us, that are eating at us. And we end up with results that we would not have planned for. And yet there they are, sitting upon that page and staring back at us. I don't think this is such a big leap, after all. When you spend much time with a counselor or a therapist, or take on any manner of psychological treatment, you are working with assumptions, with things that exist just underneath your conscious mind. And art is this weird thing that taps into what we understand and what we don't understand. And because it's a merger of the physical and the mental, I think it's such an easy leap to jump to the fact that, yeah, weird things happen when you draw, bro. You're never going to be able to exactly anticipate what's going to happen. And sometimes things that happen there are strange. Sometimes they're beautiful and wonderful and they surprise you. Sometimes they turn your drawings ugly. Sometimes they're just different. I find for me most of the time that when I follow these whims that things just end up a little bit stranger. I end up putting extra eyes or tentacles on things. I don't necessarily think that Cthulhu is talking to me in my sleep, but there is some fascinations that I have with certain things that come out in my art when I'm not paying attention. In fact, I would say almost all of us do this artistically. Whatever it is that you trend toward, the things that you tend to draw, well, when you turn off your brain and just draw, the things that you've done the most are going to come out. But you'll also be surprised that you'll find which aspects of those drawing forms are the least stressful for you, because those will usually be the ones that come out. So what is drawing? I don't think anyone really knows once you get past the textbook definition. It is a weird merger of the mental and the physical. And when we let our unconscious or subconscious mind take over, who knows what strange results we might get. At the end of the day, it's fun. It's a very basic human thing. Most of us drew in our youth and only turned away from it when we started to think that it was a waste of time. Somebody insulted our work. We got compared to somebody who we thought was better than us, or the teacher or our parents said was better than us. Generally, if a kid has had a really good childhood, things have gone really well for them, they keep drawing, which almost seems to indicate that bringing drawing back into our lives might be a healing thing for many of us. So I hope you drew some robots today. Even if you didn't take the high road and make a robotic dragon, I hope that you drew something. And I hope that you're creating, because that's what we do as humans. And I think we're happiest when we do that. Well, as always, thank you for your time. If you want to get involved in our Discord community, where we work on drawings together weekly and just share what we're doing and, rant and complain sometimes about artistic things, a link for that is in the description down below. Thank you to patron Who, What, Where, When for your continued support. And if you are interested in helping decide what happens in these podcasts and sketchbook sessions, the particular things that I ramble about, you're interested in seeing the scripts and outlines of these things before they happen or while they're still in progress, you can support the channel at the Patreon link below. Well, have a good one, y'all. See you soon.